Well, good evening and welcome back to the journal. You find me on the banks of the famous Suffolk Water Park. As I mentioned on my last video, I said I'd be doing a little bit of fishing here, and this is because I've got a job nearby. So I've never fished the place before, I've never walked around it or anything. I've always wanted to. So I'm now on my third overnight trip. So I'd done one night last week and didn't really go to plan. The weather was boiling hot. Got into the swim that I'd booked and there was fish in front of me. It felt really good. I went into the night confident, but I actually woke to a few fish spawning, so I think most of them had got it out of the way, but I just wanted to leave it alone for a bit longer. So I decided to do no more nights that week with the intention of coming back the following. And it's quite a strange place because it's a horseshoe shape. You're not always certain where the fish will be, so you could be one end and the fish be elsewhere and you can't actually see them. So I knew with the weather change that the fish would be elsewhere, and because of the booking system on here you can't necessarily get to where you want to be. It's a good system because you know you're going to get a swim, but as always with fishing, they're not always where you think they're going to be. So I came down yesterday night, and like I say, the weather had completely changed from my last trip, and as had the fish's location. So I ended up fishing a swim called Ambush Point, which I really liked the look of when I walked around last time. Majority of the fish were showing to my left, further out, but I couldn't actually, that interfered with the other swim's water, so I couldn't fish at the range that the fish were. But there was definitely a few fish showing in front of me. And I had a funny occurrence in the night that I put down to a bream, because I've been told there's lots of bream in here. Had a bit of a finicky bite. Left it because I didn't see any sort of tip movement or no line was taken. But when I reeled in the morning, the rig had moved slightly, the lead had discharged and the hook point had burred over. So that could have been a bream, I don't know, but one of those things where I'd have rather known than be unsure. So that was last night. We've had much warmer weather today, sort of 20 degrees, a nice warm wind, so the fish have most definitely returned to the shallows. So I'm back in the first swim that I fished on my first night last week. Spots are really nice. I'm out amongst the weed, and yeah, I've seen plenty of fish. So my plan was to make this a separate video, but as I say, I've not managed to actually get the nights in that I'd originally planned, and I think I probably underestimated it a little bit over here. I thought, there was a good chance of a few bites, and I think there is if you get it right, but by the sounds of things it's quite tricky, and like I say, with the booking system you can't always get where you need to be as such. But it's a lovely place. I'm really enjoying sort of getting to know the lake a little bit. I've seen loads of the fish, like I say, where they were spawning I see plenty of them. And I've seen some real good fish showing. Got a better idea of the stock now and different swims and whatever. So I'm looking forward to getting to know the lake more. And like I say, I'm going to be coming over here on a sort of semi-regular basis. So it's nice getting to know the lake a little bit. It's really well run. It's got a lovely shop here, and all the guys that I've met on here have been great. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a little bit more on here. I'm back to Wraysbury this weekend. So yeah, hopefully we'll start well on there post spawning. And yeah, I look forward to sharing that with you over the summer. So I'll catch up with you soon. Well, good evening. We're back at Wraysbury. So this is the first trip since my last trip in bus stop. So it's been about 3 weeks now, and the lake has changed dramatically since I was last here. The weed has really come up, and in different areas to last year, which is quite interesting. So I ended up fishing Runway last night. This is now my second evening, and I arrived early morning. And the lake was obviously quite busy because it had only been open a few days, but Spring Gates was free and Runway. But normal circumstances I would have chose Spring Gates every time, but like a donut, I left my waders at home. It's the first time since I've been fishing Wraysbury I've never brought my waders, and the weather forecast suited Runway really, more the middle of the lake. We were due some rain, and the fish I'd seen were more in the centre of the lake, so I decided to go there. But the weather forecast was just so wrong. It ended up being quite warm and sunny, and the more I sat there I just wasn't feeling it. Woke up in the morning, didn't see a great deal, see a few, but nothing in numbers, and spring gates were still free, so decided to reel in, made my way round there, and luckily for me, my good mate Paul lent me his waders, and I've probably spent the last 3 to 4 hours just raking as much of this weed as I can. Not necessarily raking spots, just literally trying to clear the weed, because this is too good a swim to allow it to become unfishable. So hopefully a few of the other lads will muck in with a bit of fishing, a bit of raking between us. We'll make it a bit more comfortable in here, because it is very weedy, and it's a different sort of weed to what was in here last year, so I think it's thrown us all off a little bit. But it's fishing very slow. I think it's only done 2 or 3 bites since I've been here, so yeah, fingers crossed. But like I say, a bite's a bonus really. I've come in here just to try and clear a little bit of this weed, and hopefully make it a little bit more fishable for the coming weeks, because it's definitely a swim that I'd like to get in more over the summer, just based on my results last year. And this swim chucks up too many of the real good fish to, like I say, to let it become unfishable. So yeah, feeling hopeful. The weather's much better for this area. I'm definitely feeling more confident than I was in Runway. I just hope that we can get them back through this weed if we do hook anything. So if I have anything, I'll show you that, but if not, I'll catch up with you on the next trip. Good morning. Well, I thought it was time to do an update, as quite a lot's gone on since we last spoke. So since that last trip that I've done in Spring Gates, I've not been back to Wraysbury, and this is because they actually closed it again for spawning, which doesn't surprise me. As I mentioned on the video, the lake was very moody, it wasn't doing a lot of fish, and apparently they went back into spawning. So I've not been back since then. I think it was closed for around a week to 10 days. And it reopened last week, so a few of the big fish have been out. I've not been able to get down, so we're now on the Sunday morning. So I got down on Friday night, and I had an idea of where I fancied. As I've mentioned previously, I knew I wasn't going to get to Wraysbury quite as much as last year, and I knew I definitely wasn't going to be able to get the Fridays off work. So most of my fishing now is going to be on the Friday nights. I've been thinking about swims that I can get in, and hopefully trying to get a bit of rhythm. So got down to the lake, and I was hoping that it might be fairly quiet due to the football, and it was busy, but it wasn't crazy. I walked on the far bank, and I see the swim that I fancied was free, so had a chat with a couple of people, found out what had been showing, and that just made me even more confident to get into the swim that I had in mind. So got round, ended up getting the rods out quite late. Around 10 o'clock I was all done. I was more than happy with my swim choice. So the swim's actually called Plateau, so I didn't fish it last year. This is my first trip in here. It doesn't get fished a great deal, and last year it got very weedy, and I think that was because it was just left alone. So I had an idea where the spots were, and yeah, quite quickly found areas that I fancied fishing. So I've got a short spot, and I've got 2 a little bit further out into the lake. One's a bit deeper, one's on some shallow water. And went into the night fairly confident, just put a little bit of bait out there, nothing major. Woke up at 4 in the morning, and it was quite evident there was fish in front of me. There was mainly fish to my left towards Sunny Meads, but as the morning wore on, more fish started showing out in front. A few over the spots, but you know, they weren't necessarily on the spots. And then some fish started rolling to the right, but then I noticed some fizzing on the middle rod. I then got a liner, some more fizzing, and then the rod shot off. So had a bit of a battle. It got me in a bit of weed. It is weedy out here, but I wouldn't say it's as bad as other areas of the lake. And yeah, got into a bit of weed, and then all of a sudden it surged from my left hand line, took the rod under the other line, but I picked up a little bit of weed on the rod. So anyway, I'm pulling down to it. I've got the fish coming towards the weed, and I've seen this big grey tail slap over with some white tips on it. So I thought, oh, it's one of the big ones, like, because both of the pets have big tails, but with some where they've had tail damage, there's a little bit of white on their tips. So I thought, oh, it's one of the pets. But anyway, it's flat rodded me, gone absolutely crazy on this long run. Got it back, a bit of weed over its head, and dunked the net under it and got him in. and it wasn't one of the pets, but it was this incredible mirror. It was 32.10 empty, so probably a mid to upper 30 the right time of year, but just an absolutely beautiful carp. I have found a picture of it from a previous capture at mid-30s. It looks quite different to when I caught it, but the guy that caught it, he's been on here for some time and he thought it was an old one as well. I guess we'll never know, but it definitely looks like an old fish. It was just absolutely epic, so yeah, absolutely made up with that one. So yeah, got the rod back out as quick as I could. There were still fish out there, got him sorted and what have you, so I'll show you the footage of that after this. And yeah, fish continued to show, and a family of swans come in, and the cygnets were in the weed, and then one of the adult swans come between my two lines. So I've walked up to it, the receiver's in the brolly, and I've got it on low. So I'm looking at this swan and I'm watching my middle line tighten up through the water. And I thought, oh, the swan's picked my line up. And I'm looking at the swan, I'm thinking, it can't be, you know. So I've picked up the rod and yeah, was into another one. So this one got me weeded up 3 times, but eventually got him in just under 24 pound, a lovely clean linear. So yeah, absolutely made up with that, you know, a new swim. It's not a popular swim either. So to have had a couple, I'm made up with that. So I went back to the van, got sorted, got the rods back out for the evening, but I think it will be predominantly about the mornings. So yeah, for the next few weeks, if I can get in here, that would be great. So following morning now, I've woken up early, I'm starting to pack up, so I'm going to have to be off early for the football obviously. So there's fish out there this morning. It's not quite as they're not showing quite as much as yesterday, but I've just had a liner on the middle rod. There's definitely been a little bit of fizzing out of there, so I'm hopeful of one more. So going to get packed up and yeah, hope for a good result with the football. But yeah, I'm already itching to get back down here now. So hopefully the spawning's all done. It will stay open as normal now. And yeah, I can get into a little bit of rhythm of getting down here. Between the trips to Wraysbury, also done a filming trip with Avid. I won't say too much about it because I'm not sure when it comes out, but had a really good time doing that. So yeah, it's been an enjoyable few weeks and I'm looking forward to the rest of summer. So if nothing else happens this trip, I'm going to show you the footage of the 2 fish from yesterday morning, and I'll catch up with you on the next trip. Well, it's been a couple of weeks since my last visit to Wraysbury. This is due to the fish spawning. So they closed the lake again, reopened earlier in the week. So I got back down on the Friday night. By the time I was sorted, it was pretty late. The rods are all done about 10 o'clock. It's been a lovely summer's morning, plenty of fish showing, fizzing on the spots. Then the line has started until the rod pulled up tight. I've had this epic 32.10 mirror. I'm not sure which fish it is. I'm pretty sure it's an old one. It doesn't look like a stocky. It's heavily spawned out, so I'd say it's an upper 30 the right time of year. Huge tail, just an epic carp. Absolutely made up with this one. What a welcome back. Awesome. We've got another one following on from that special mirror. Still haven't got it confirmed what fish that is yet. Hopefully by the end of the day I will find out. I was pretty sure there were fish still in the zone. There was still a bit of fizzing on the spot, so I got the rod out as quick as I could. A little bit more bait. Now, I had a liner not long after. Then a family of swans come through the swim. Just as the swan was approaching my line, the line tightened right up, and I thought it was the swan taking out my line. And as I realised it couldn't be, the line was pinging up through the water, and this angry fella was on the end, just under 24 pound. He got me weeded up 3 times, but we got him in. So yeah, what a result. There's definitely fish still out there, so I'm gonna get this one back, go back to the van and get sorted, and get the rods back out as quick as I can. Happy days. Lovely. Well, we're back at Wraysbury, and after last weekend's results, I really wanted to get back in Plateau, but got down on the Friday, and the lake is actually a little bit quieter than I expected with this warm sunny weather. I thought it was going to be quite busy, so I made my way round to Plateau. Couldn't believe it, there was a bucket in there. Turns out there's a guy tench fishing in there, so it threw me a little bit. So I put a bucket in Grassy. I've just never really got on with that swim, but I put a bucket in there. I made my way round. Spring Gates was free. I had a look, and the weed had moved a little bit from my last trip, and I really fancied it, so rushed around, got me buckets, made my way over to Spring Gates, armed with me new rakes, and set about some more of this weed. So a few more hours of raking, the rods are out. I woke up this morning and I thought I'd done it wrong, and I didn't really see a lot of fish in front of me or down the shallow end at all. So I sat it out, and out of the blue, middle rod shot off with this interesting character. It's got a bit of a deformed mouth, actually reminds me of paw print in a way. 25-4, just a nice result after a few hours raking. I just don't want the swim to become unfishable, so it's worth the graft. So whether I'll stay in here tonight, I'm not sure. I have heard fish to my right in lawns, so I may move, but see how the morning pans out. But nice to get one. Let's get him back. Well, we've got our second fish of the trip. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be the last. A few fish have started spawning to the right, so I've had this one about 4:30 in the morning. Whilst playing it, there's been loads of fish crashing to the right, and yeah, they've started spawning. So I don't think it's loads of fish. A few are just starting to go. So there's so many different types of fish in here. So be an early pack up. But I've had this lovely linear, just under 24 pound, proper angry. So I don't know if he's going to play ball. There we go. Typical VS stocky. Lovely start to a summer's morning. It's going to be a real scorcher today, so I'm going to get him back quick. Lovely. Well, I'm back at Wraysbury. It's been a couple of weeks since my last trip when I had those couple of fish out of Spring Gates, and then the fish started spawning. So I've been away for a long weekend. It was a really nice break, but I have to admit I was really looking forward to getting back down here. So I don't think I've missed a great deal. I think a few fish have been out, but it's been fishing quite slowly, and I thought the lake was going to be really busy, but to my surprise it's actually quite quiet over here. I had quite a few options. We've got a big wind blowing down the lake. We've had quite a bit of drizzle, but amongst that there's some sunny spells as well, and it's quite warm, so it's quite strange conditions. But ideally, normal times I would have gone into the middle of the lake, but the middle and car park end of the lake's fished really slowly so far this year. I'm not totally sure why. A few of the big fish have been out down the car park end, but in terms of numbers it's fishing quite poorly down there. So for me, I feel much more confident down this shallow end. I've had good results down here so far, so I've decided to go back in Spring Gates. I've always liked it in here when there's a big wind blowing across it. I caught Red October with a big southwesterly blowing across and quite a bit of drizzle blowing into the swim, so I'm feeling confident. The water's actually come up a little bit with all this rain, and the wind's pushed some of the weed down, so I can't actually see the weed beds, but the rods have gone out nice. I've got 3 good drops, so I'm feeling pretty confident. The lake's filled up a little bit, but it's not too busy, so I think this weather's going to sort of be on off all weekend. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident here. As well as the weekend away, I've done a small filming trip with Avid last week. I've got a filming trip with CC Moore coming up this week, so things are a little different for me this year. I'm still getting used to the filming trips and fitting those in around my fishing, but I've got this weekend, next weekend, I'm off for 2 weeks, and then hopefully after that I will be able to focus my time just on Wraysbury. So I'm hoping that end of August, September, October to November, I can really make use of my time and get down there as much as possible. So I'll keep you updated with this trip, and hopefully a couple turn up. Good morning, we're off the mark. So I woke up early this morning, I was watching the water. I didn't actually feel that confident. A lot of the fish I see were more to the far side and in those middle swims I said about. But as the morning wore on, I started to see a few fish show more towards me, and then towards the right hand area I've always done well on. A couple of fish showed me on, and then not long after the rod buckled round. Had a real good battle, really pulled hard. I haven't weighed it, I'd assume it's a low 20, but it's a real clean, pretty one. Lovely carp. Nice to get off the mark after a couple of weeks away. Feel really confident. Landed more fish. Rigs are definitely working well. This one definitely wasn't coming off. The bait's working. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to going into the next few weeks angling. Result, the rod's back out, so hopefully a couple more turn up. Well, we've got something really special here. Another one of the red myers. I'm not sure what one it is just yet. I think it's either Jay's Common, which for me was the dream fish at Wraysbury to catch, or it's another red mire that's very similar, with a similar patch across the top, but absolutely awesome fish. Let's see if I can get him up. They don't get much better than that. Wow, 36.10, so it's a little bit empty because both of these fish do over 40 pound the right time of year, but weight's completely irrelevant. An awesome, awesome carp. Wow. That is ridiculous. I'll show you the other side. Beautiful condition. Alright. She's not happy. Really rucked. Alright. Really rucked hard. I had a feeling it was a big one. Wow, she is incredible. What dreams are made of. Wow. Let's get some snaps, get her back, and I'll catch up with you in a bit and tell you all about it. Wow. Well, as you can see, it's a little bit later than when we last spoke. The day's been a little bit of a blur. I'm going to run you back to this morning and how the day's panned out. So, as I said, woke up this morning, I didn't see a great deal in front of me and I didn't feel that confident, but as the morning wore on, I see a few fish sort of moving out my way, and then a couple of fish showed me on my right hand rod. I've always done well in that area, and then I soon had that 21 pounder. But that fish took out my middle rod, so I recast the middle, recast the right, and I thought if I was going to get another bite it'd be on one of those rods. But time had passed. I was sitting there tying some rigs, I was on the phone, and then the left hand rod just absolutely flown off, and this rod needed attention fast. Like, that's the only rod that's in the water, so it's a wader's job normally, but I just needed to get on this rod, so ran straight out into the water, picked the rod up, and the fish has just surged and bow waved off the shallow water. And at first I just thought it was an angry stocky, but as I've kept the rod high, the fish is just on this tight line on the mono, just kept going, and I was really worried about the fish moving down into the deeper water. So I've kept the fish tight, walked back, managed to slip on the waders, get a little bit more comfortable. So I've got out in the water, got a much better angle on the fish and started cranking it back towards me. So as I mentioned, it's really surged through this weed. So I've got the fish sort of pumping towards me, and at this point I've now seen a big head and tail pop up, and I thought actually this could be a good one. So I've had that horrible feeling of where I've gone from direct contact, I can see the fish, to I'm now cranking the fish into the weed bed. And you always have that horrible feeling when you see the weed, you see the leader, and you can't feel the fish, and you think, is it still there? So anyway, I've walked out to it, I've just dunked the net nice and low, swooped it up, and as I've lifted it up, I've just seen this big tail flop over in the net, and I knew I'd got it. So at first in the net, I wasn't totally sure what I'd got. It felt like deja vu with Red October all over again. I've cleared the weed, and I knew straight away it wasn't Red October because the scaling was very different on the top. It was Jay's Common that I caught, which for me was just a dream come true really. So I've gone through the photos, I've shown a couple of people, and I think it's Jay's Common. So that's really, for me, that was the dream fish at Wraysbury. So to have come here and caught Red October and Jay's Common, I couldn't have asked for more. It was everything and more that I'd hoped it would be. My friend Ali caught it a few years ago, and ever since then, looking at his pictures has always made me want to catch that fish. So anyway, in the net, you know, got it secured and what have you, cut the line, and yeah, like I say, on the mat it was just so impressive. Its mouth was huge, its fins were massive. I'm not totally sure what its biggest weight is, but I know it was over 42 pound last May, so you know, its frame was huge. It was a little bit empty, but weight was completely irrelevant. I mean, it's just such a special carp. So yeah, absolutely over the moon. Really beat me up on the bank, but got some nice shots of it. And yeah, all the hard work was worth it. You know, I always try and plan to fish the swims that I feel will put me in favour of those fish that I'd like to catch. And for me, Springgates, although I'd done well in here last year, I knew there was still potential for fish that I haven't caught to come out of here, and that's why I was so set on, you know, raking the swim, keeping it fishable. So that's a lot of the reason why yesterday, although Rocky and Runway were free and I felt the fish would be out there, I don't really feel that those swims will produce the fish that I'd like to catch from Wraysbury. So for me, out of Springgates, I knew Jay's Common, the Long Sutton and the Broken Lynn all potentially could do captures from this swim. And I try not go in swims if I know one of those fish that I'd like to catch has been out of that swim and I don't feel there's a chance of any of the others, I won't fish those swims. So definitely, I think it's so worth being conscious of previous captures and what's been out and what's due out. So yeah, just unbelievable. And literally after an hour of putting that fish back, the chap a couple of swims down from me in Rocky, his first fish from the lake, has caught Mike's Pet, the lake's big mirror. Really empty. She was 52 in February and he had it at 43. So they've had a real good spawn, but unbelievable. Two of the lake's biggest fish within an hour. So yeah, I'm absolutely made up. So the conditions are a bit strange. I tried filming this about an hour ago. We had some torrential rain. It is still raining now, but it was very dark. It's now quite bright. I can see that on the screen. But the rods have gone out nice. I rebaited at lunch. I've left the swim alone all afternoon. There's definitely been some activity. I see some fizzing. A few other fish have been out around the lake as well. So I definitely, you know, it's fishing well. They've spawned, their weights are down, so I definitely think they're hungry. So one more night, I'm feeling really confident, but going into the rest of the season now, anything else is a complete bonus, but I definitely like another one of those big mirrors now. So that's probably what I'd say is my target going into the late summer and autumn now. So I think there might be a slight area change of the lake that I'll be focusing on now, but hopefully a couple more turn up this trip. But I'm going to sleep a happy man, that's for sure. Well, I caught the fish of my dreams, but it didn't actually turn into the session of dreams. So Obviously caught those 2 fish yesterday, went into the night really confident. We got a lot of rain, but I woke up this morning, see a lot of shows, a lot in the middle, just like yesterday, and I probably see more activity around my areas than I did yesterday morning, so I was feeling quite confident, but the morning wore on and the activity dropped, but just like yesterday, right hand rod just buckled round, and the issue is with the water a bit higher at the minute, there's a little bit of a void, having to put the waders on. So I've put them on, I could feel the fish had got into a little bit of weed, so cranked down to it, was in the weed bed, so I've got myself nice and high in the swim, rod up high. My friend Paul come along, he's got a lovely little puppy Alsatian pup, so would have been great for her to have seen one. So got the fish moving, playing it as normal, had a few powerful surges out into the lake, and I'd hoped it had sort of done all it needed to do out there, but as I got it closer, it started heading towards my left-hand line. Obviously, I'm using quite stiff rods, and the fish was really shaking its head, so I've managed to get away from the other line, got it coming towards me. I've just turned to talk to Paul, and the hook's popped out, so I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I see it on the surface, and it was a scaly stocky. It wasn't a huge fish, but obviously, I'm trying to land as many as possible. I've been on a good run, so to have lost one like that was a little bit sort of frustrating, if anything. Like, I didn't feel angry, it was just a bit frustrating. So anyway, got the rod out as quick as possible. There was definitely a few fish showing, so I felt confident of another bite, and I was packing bits away, and I reckon the line had lifted out of the buzzer, because I didn't actually hear the buzzer, I just heard the clutch fizzing on the middle rod. I've had no action on the middle rod so far, and it was like a jacuzzi on the spot. This fish was just surging. It's on a tight line, there's an island behind it, so it's forced me to clamp down a little bit tighter than I would have liked, and this fish was just going and going, and I've stopped it, but I had that horrible feeling of the weed was down the line. I was getting that horrible bobbing feeling, it just didn't feel right, and I've got the fish sort of coming my way a little bit, but the bobbing had continued where the fish was obviously shaking its head behind the weed, and the hook popped out. So 2 hook pulls back to back in an hour. Like I say, a little bit of a burn, obviously after such a great start to the session, and you know, a real good run of landing fish, but it's the nature of Wraysbury. I learnt that last year, and I'm not going to change my approach because of it, because I'm really enjoying using the mono. I don't think it was down to either of those things. I think it was just a little bit of bad luck. The first one, stiff rods, a small fish shaking its head at close range isn't always great for your hook holds, and obviously it had been weeded up earlier, so I don't think that helped. And the second one, you know, I think that real powerful run through the weed to start off with sort of set the tone for the battle. But the 2 before that, you know, come in a dream, and as of the other ones, you know, and it was even weedier prior to that, so a little bit unfortunate. It would have been great to have finished the session with a couple more fish, but obviously I'm absolutely over the moon still. Yeah, big buzz, so I'm looking forward to getting home, having a shower, some nice food, and yeah, I already can't wait to get back. So yeah, really good session, finished on a bit of a low, but that's fishing for you. So yeah, looking forward to getting back. Well, as they say, bad luck normally comes in threes, and that was certainly the case this weekend. I've just got back from a weekend at Wraysbury, and it certainly didn't go to plan. So I got down to the lake, pretty good time really, and the lake was quite quiet once again. So yeah, result really. And as I pulled into the car park, I see somebody and they said Springgates is free. So I thought to myself, well, I've got one more weekend. There was a southwesterly blowing across it. The conditions were fairly similar to last weekend, although it's slightly cooler. So yeah, I thought that's good enough for me. So when I opened the back of the van to get a bucket out to run around to Springgates, I realised that a tin of paint had gone over after leaving work. So yeah, not what you want. Solvent as well. So luckily, in one way, it all dropped into a bag, so it didn't go on anything else. But yeah, I'm just about to clean all that up now. So went into the first night. To my knowledge, not a lot had been out. I see a few fish, but with the rain, it was quite difficult to actually see what was going on. I had a tench going into the first evening, and then that first morning on the Saturday, there was just hours of rain, and I just knew it wasn't going to happen. I think one fish come out opposite me, but other than that, there wasn't a lot going on. So going into the second night, I then ran out of gas, so luckily I managed to make dinner, but it meant that I could no longer make tea or coffee for the rest of the trip or my breakfast. Woke up the following morning, it did feel better. I didn't see a great deal, but I definitely felt more confident of a take. A few fish showed to my left, just sort of beyond the left hand area, and I thought if I get a bite it'll be on that rod. And then a couple of hours later, out of the blue, that rod just shot off. Got on the rod, I was already wearing my waders and was instantly back winding. As soon as I caught up with the fish, it then started zipping off the clutch. And the issue is with that spot, I'm fishing on a very shallow spit, and to the left of it, it really drops off into some deep water, and there's always weed there. And the issue is when they go out on a long line, they come up into the back of it and they go behind the weed beds. It's happened to me once before, the night I caught Red October. And it was exactly the same conditions, the big southwesterly blowing across, rain in my face, and yeah, it just wasn't nice at all. And for over an hour I was pulling and putting the rod down on the rest. I just couldn't get anything to budge. I tried a different angle and I ended up getting cut off in the weeds. So yeah, certainly leaving with my tail between my legs, so hence why I didn't actually film this piece at the lake. I've come home, emptied the van, and yeah, I'm a bit wounded, to be honest. After a real nice run of landing fish, I was really feeling confident, and to lose 3 on the bounce, I mean, it is the nature of Wraysbury. It's so demanding at times, and it can really leave you deflated, but you know, that's why the good times are so good. So I've got 2 weeks away now, so I've got one more trip at the end of August, so hopefully that the sort of things will improve. I am looking forward to a break, I have to admit, so hopefully going back, you know, we'll start putting fish on the bank again. I may convert back to braid, I don't know. Avid have a new braid out now, and I'm hoping with a sinking braid I should be able to get more of what I want from it. I don't know, we'll see how we get on with the weed, but yeah, certainly going to have a slight rethink. I'm not going to change loads. The rigs, you know, I'm more than happy with them, but I think in certain situations maybe I'll have to go over to the braid, I don't know. But yeah, looking forward to a couple of week break, and then I'll catch up with you that last trip in August, and then that will be the last session of the summer journal. Well, as you can see, I never managed to get over to Wraysbury for the August bank holiday, hence filming this now. So a bit of a shame. I was looking forward to getting back over there and settling the score of those 3 losses, but this now rounds off the summer journal. I hope you've enjoyed the watch. It's been a funny summer. I feel like I haven't really got to Wraysbury as much as I did last year, but I'm happy with my results, and obviously I'm over the moon to have landed Jay's Commons. So like I say, I hope you enjoyed the watch. Please like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think, and I look forward to catching up with you in the autumn, and hopefully we catch a few more of those big uns from Wraysbury, and hopefully one of those big mirrors. I'll catch you soon.